There's a scene at the end of Stranger Things Season 4 that everyone remembers. Vecna falls. His body crumbles. Fire consumes him. The kids stand upside down, breathing hard, covered in blood and ash. They think they won. The music swells. The camera cuts to Hawkins splitting open, and everyone watching at home feels that same sick twist in their stomach. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Because Vecna didn't lose. He just changed the game. Most people walked away from that season thinking the kids got lucky, that they barely survived, that Vecna was defeated but not destroyed. But what if that's exactly what he wanted you to think? What if every single moment of that finale was orchestrated? What if Vecna falling wasn't a failure at all, but the final step in a plan that started long before 11 ever opened the gate? Let's rewind. Let's look at what actually happened. Not what we were told happened, not what the characters believe happened, but what the evidence shows. Because when you strip away the emotion and the heroic music and the relief of seeing your favorite character survive, a very different story emerges. A story where Vecna isn't the villain who lost. He's the architect who succeeded. Think about the gate. The massive rift that tore through Hawkins at the exact moment Vecna fell. For separate cracks, spreading out like veins, converging at the center town. The upside down bleeding into reality on a scale we've never seen before. Hawkins didn't just get wounded. It got transformed. And that transformation happened because Vecna fell. Not in spite of it, because of it. 11 threw everything she had at him. Max died and came back. Lucas beat Jason. Steve and Nancy and Robin burned his physical body in the upside down. And Vecna fell. But the gate opened wider than ever before. The barrier between worlds didn't just crack. It shattered. Hawkins became a doorway. And doorways swing both ways. Here's what nobody wants to admit. Vecna needed to be attacked. He needed 11 to fight him. He needed Max to be his fourth victim, even if just for a few moments. He needed the kids to think they were stopping him, because their resistance was the final catalyst. You can't open a gate that massive with just death. You need opposition. You need force meeting force. You need two worlds colliding with enough violence to tear reality itself. And Vecna knew that. Look at his pattern. He didn't just kill randomly. Every victim was chosen. Every death had meaning. Every vision he showed them wasn't just torture. It was preparation. He was building something. Chrissy, Fred, Patrick, Max. 4 gates. For compass points. For anchors. And when the kids came for him, when they hit him with everything they had, those anchors activated. The ritual completed. Not through his victory, but through his apparent defeat. Think about how he reacted when 11 found him in Max's mind. He didn't seem surprised. He seemed ready. He welcomed her. He smiled. He told her she had already lost. Not that she would lose. That she had lost. Past tense. Because by the time she arrived, the game was already over. She was just playing out the final moves, thinking she still had a chance. Max's heart stopped. For a full minute, she was gone, clinically dead. And in that minute, the 4th gate opened. Vecna got what he needed. 11 brought her back, yes, but the gate stayed open. The damage was done. The door was unlocked. And Vecna, burning and broken in the upside down, wasn't screaming in pain. He was watching, waiting, knowing that the real work had just begun. His body fell into the red storm below. The kids saw it. Nancy shot him. Steve threw Molotov cocktails. Robin lit him on fire. They saw him burn. They saw him fall. But did they see him die? Did they find a body? Did they confirm the kill? Or did they just assume that fire and falling equals death? Because in the upside down, the normal rules don't apply. And Vecna stopped being normal a long time ago. Here's the thing about Vecna that makes him different from every other threat the kids have faced. The Mind Flayer was instinct. The Demogorgon was a weapon. The Russians were human. But Vecna is something else. He's human enough to plan, powerful enough to execute, and broken enough not to care about the cost. He spent years in the upside down alone, building his strength, learning the rules of that world. He became the apex predator, the architect, the god of that nightmare realm. And gods don't lose by falling. They lose by being forgotten. Hawkins is split open now. The upside down is seeping in. Ash falls like snow. The sky is dark. People are evacuating. The military is moving in. The government is scrambling. And somewhere in all that chaos, Vecna is healing, growing stronger, waiting for the moment when everyone stops looking for him, when they think the danger has passed, when they let their guard down, because that's when he'll move again. You have to understand his origin to understand his endgame. Henry Creel wasn't born evil. He was born sensitive. Too sensitive. He could see things others couldn't, feel things others didn't. The world pressing on him like a weight, and nobody understood. Not his parents. Not his sister. Nobody. So he pushed back. He found he could move things with his mind. Hurt things. Kill things. And it felt like relief. Like finally having control in a world that made no sense. But 11 stopped him. Sent him to the upside down. And instead of dying there, he evolved. He didn't just survive that realm. He mastered it. He bent it to his will. He became its voice, its brain, its purpose. And over decades, he built a plan. Not a plan of simple revenge, but a plan of transformation, of making the real world understand what he understood. That reality is fragile. That the monsters are already here. That the nightmare isn't something that happens in another dimension. It's something we carry inside us. Every person he killed, he showed them their trauma, their guilt, their shame. He made them relive their worst moments. Not because he enjoyed it, though maybe he did, but because he was proving a point. That everyone is already broken. Everyone is already haunted. He was just making the invisible visible, the internal external. He was turning Hawkins into a mirror of the upside down, a place where the monsters inside became monsters outside. And he succeeded. The gate isn't just a hole in the ground. It's a wound in reality. And wounds spread. They fester. They infect. Hawkins is infected now. The spores are in the air. The vines are underground. The darkness is creeping in. And every day that passes, the barrier gets thinner. The two worlds blend more. The distinction between here and there fades. That's not a defeat. That's a victory. Let's talk about what happens after a villain falls. In most stories, the hero wins. The threat ends. Everyone goes home. But Stranger Things has never been most stories. It's always been smarter than that, darker than that, more willing to show that victory comes at a cost. And the cost this time isn't just dead teenagers and a broken town. It's the illusion of safety itself. Because Vecna's fall didn't end the invasion. It started it. Think about the mechanics of what he did. For 3 seasons, the upside down was separate, contained. You needed a gate to cross over. You needed a portal. The barrier held. But season 4 changed that. Vecna didn't just open gates. He created a permanent connection. A bleeding wound that won't close. And the fact that it happened when he fell, when the kids thought they were stopping him, that's the most brilliant part. They became unwitting participants in his ritual. Max was the key. Her death, even temporary, was a final sacrifice. Vecna needed 4 victims, but he also needed something more. He needed someone to die and come back. Someone to exist in both states. Alive and dead. Here and there. A bridge between worlds. And when 11 pulled Max back on the edge, she didn't close the door. She wedged it open. Max is in a coma now, suspended between life and death, and as long as she stays that way, the gate remains active. Vecna knew 11 would save her. He counted on it, because 11's greatest strength is also her greatest weakness. She can't let go. She can't accept loss. She saved Max because that's who she is. But in doing so, she gave Vecna exactly what he needed. A permanent anchor. A living ghost. A doorway that can't be shut. Now look at how the gate behaves. It's not static. It's growing. Slowly, yes, but consistently. The cracks spread a little farther each day. The upside-down corruption seeps deeper into Hawkins. The military sets up barriers. But barriers don't work against something that spreads underground, through roots, through spores, through the very soil itself. Hawkins is being consumed from within, and everyone is too focused on guarding the visible gates to notice the invisible infection. That's strategy. That's planning. That's not the behavior of someone who lost. And then there's Vecna's body. Let's be clear about what we actually saw. He fell into the red storm, the lightning, the chaos of the Upside Down's atmosphere. We didn't see him hit the ground. We didn't see him stop moving. We saw him disappear into the maelstrom. And in a realm where physics doesn't work the same way, where creatures regenerate, where the mind flare exists as a cloud of sentient particles, why would we assume a fall equals death? Vecna has already demonstrated regeneration. His body was burned by 11 years ago, sent to another dimension, and he healed. He adapted. He grew stronger. Fire didn't kill him the first time. Why would it kill him now? Nancy emptied a shotgun into him. Steve doused him in flames. And he fell. But falling isn't dying. Not for something that's already more monster than man. Here's what probably happened. Vecna fell, yes. His body was damaged, yes. But he fell into his own domain. Into the heart of the Upside Down. Surrounded by the energy he'd been drawing from for decades. And in that environment, he didn't die. He went dormant. He began to heal, to regenerate, to plan his next move. Because the gate was open. The ritual was complete. Phase 1 was done. He could afford to rest. And while he rests, Hawkins tears itself apart. The town is evacupting. Families are leaving. The government is moving in. FEMA, the military, researchers. Everyone wants to study the anomaly, contain it, understand it. But they're operating on the assumption that this is a natural disaster, a freak occurrence. They don't understand that they're dealing with intelligence, with intention, with something that wants them there. Because every scientist who studies a gate, every soldier who guards it, every civilian who refuses to leave, they're all potential victims, potential anchors, potential fuel for what comes next. Vecna doesn't need to be physically present to influence the gate. He's connected to the Upside Down on a level we don't fully understand. He became its mind, its will. The vines move because he wants them to move. The spores spread because he directs them. The corruption grows because he feeds it. His physical body might be healing somewhere deep in that nightmare dimension, but his consciousness is everywhere the Upside Down touches. And now it touches Hawkins. That means he can see everything happening in town. Feel everyone who crosses near the gate. Sense 11 when she gets close. He's not blind. He's not powerless. He's distributed, decentralized, and that makes him almost impossible to kill. Because how do you kill something that exists in the space between worlds? How do you destroy something that's already part of the fabric of another reality? You don't. You can't. Not with conventional weapons. Not with conventional thinking. And the kids are running out of time to figure that out. Look at where they are emotionally. Max is in a coma. Lucas is traumatized. 11 is exhausted and guilty. Mike is trying to hold everyone together. Dustin lost Eddie. Steve, Nancy, and Robin are processing what they saw in the Upside Down. Jonathan and Will and Argyle are dealing with their own crisis. The group is scattered, broken, running on fumes. They won the battle, but they're not prepared for the war. And Vecna knows that too. He didn't need to kill them. He just needed to break them, scatter them, make them doubt, make them afraid, make them vulnerable. Because broken heroes make mistakes. They miss things. They react instead of plan. And when they do finally come for him again, and they'll be exactly where he wants them. Desperate, emotional, predictable. That's when he'll strike. But here's the part that should terrify everyone. Vecna's ultimate goal isn't just opening gates. It's not just merging the Upside Down with reality. It's transformation. He told 11 that he wanted to show humanity the truth. That beneath the surface, everyone is broken. Everyone is monstrous. He wants to strip away the facade, the pretense, the comfortable lies people tell themselves about being good and safe and normal. And the gate is how he does it. As the Upside Down bleeds into Hawkins, it doesn't just corrupt the environment. It corrupts people. We've seen it before. The mind flare possessed Billy. The spores infected Will. The corruption spreads through proximity, through exposure, and now it's everywhere in Hawkins. In the air, in the water, in the ground. People breathe it in, touch it, track it into their homes. And slowly, subtly, it changes them. They get angrier, more paranoid, more violent. Old traumas resurface. Old grudges intensify. The town doesn't just look like the upside down. It starts to feel like it. A place where fear and pain are the default, where trust dies, where the worst parts of human nature rise to the surface. Vecna isn't just opening a physical gate. He's opening a psychological one, turning Hawkins into a breeding ground for exactly the kind of suffering he feeds on. And once Hawkins falls completely, what's to stop the spread? The gate grows. The corruption expands. Other towns, other cities. The infection is slow, but it's patient. Just like Vecna, he has all the time in the world. Because in the upside down, time doesn't move the same way. He's been there for decades and barely aged. He can wait. He can plan. He can watch the world slowly transform into his image. That's not a defeated villain. That's a villain who's winning. If you're starting to feel that tension, that creeping realization that maybe the heroes didn't win, good. That means you're paying attention. Drop a like if you're seeing the pattern, because it gets worse from here. Now, let's talk about the one thing Vecna has that no other Stranger Things villain had. Patience. The Mind Flayer attacked fast. The Demogorgon was instinct. The Russians moved with military precision. But Vecna has spent literal decades waiting, planning, building, and that patience is his greatest weapon. Because everyone else is in a hurry. Everyone else wants immediate results. But Vecna knows that real change takes time. Real transformation happens slowly. So slowly you don't notice until it's too late. And it's already too late for Hawkins. Let's examine what the town looks like now. Gates spreading like cracks in glass. Ash falling constantly. The sky perpetually dark. People leaving in waves. But not everyone. Some stay because they have nowhere else to go. Some stay because they don't believe it's as bad as the news says. Some stay because they're already infected with the upside-down corruption and don't even realize it. They feel drawn to stay, compelled, like something is calling them. And something is. Vecna's influence doesn't require his physical presence. The upside-down itself carries his will. The vines move with intelligence. They don't just spread randomly. They target specific locations. Power stations, water treatment facilities, communication hubs. They're strategic, deliberate, and that only happens if something is directing them. Something with a plan. Something that understands infrastructure and how to dismantle society from the inside. The military notices the pattern, but they misinterpret it. They think it's biological, evolutionary, the vine seeking resources. But it's not biology. It's warfare. Vecna is isolating Hawkins, cutting it off, making it harder to leave, harder to get help, harder to fight back. He's turning the town into a trap, and everyone still inside is bait. Now think about the government response. They quarantine the area. They bring in scientists. They study the anomaly. But what they're really doing is gathering targets. Every researcher who examines a gate, every soldier who stands guard, every official who tries to understand what's happening, they're all exposing themselves to the upside down, breathing the spores, touching corrupted material, standing too close to the dimensional rift. And one by one, they start to change. It's subtle at first. Headaches, nightmares, irritability. But it progresses. The nightmares get worse, more vivid, more specific. They start seeing things, hearing things. And if they're weak enough, if they're traumatized enough, if they have enough guilt or pain buried inside, Vecna finds them, even from his dormant state. Even while healing, his consciousness can reach through the gate, touch minds, plant seeds, turn victims into weapons. That's the real invasion. Not monsters pouring through the gate, but people becoming monsters. Slowly, quietly, until Hawkins isn't just infected with the upside down. It is the upside down, a perfect mirror, a sister city existing in both dimensions simultaneously. And once that transformation completes, the gate won't matter anymore, because there won't be a distinction. The barrier will dissolve completely. Two realities merge into one nightmare. And Vecna will be the god of that new world. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where Vecna's plan becomes truly brilliant. He doesn't just want Hawkins. He wants 11. He's always wanted 11. Not to kill her, to convert her. Because 11 is the only person alive who matches his power. The only person who could stand beside him in this new reality. She's his mirror, his equal, his potential partner. Think about what he told her in Max's mind. He didn't gloat. He didn't threaten. He explained. He showed her his past. Showed her where he came from. Showed her that they're the same. Both experiments. Both weapons. Both outcasts. He was trying to recruit her. Make her understand. Make her see that the world that created them both deserves what's coming. 11 rejected him, of course. Fought him. Saved Max. But Vecna planted the seed. And seeds grow, especially in fertile ground. And 11's ground is very fertile right now. She's exhausted, powerless, or nearly so. Guilty over Max, angry at herself. Isolated from the others because they don't understand what she's been through. She's exactly where Vecna needs her. Vulnerable. Questioning. Open to alternatives. What if he reaches out again? Not to fight, but to talk. What if he shows her that he's not just a monster, but a victim too? What if he offers her a place in the new world? Power. Purpose. A chance to reshape reality into something that makes sense. Something where people like them aren't hunted or feared. Something where they're in control. That's the real threat. Not that Vecna will kill the heroes, but that he'll convert them, turn them, make them question whether fighting is even worth it. Because what are they fighting for? A world that's already broken. A government that experiments on children. A society that creates monsters and then acts surprised when the monsters fight back. Vecna's argument isn't wrong. It's just extreme. And extremism sounds reasonable when you're tired and scared and out of options. If 11 falls, the war is over. Vecna wins. Completely. Permanently. Because she's the only counter to his power. The only one who can close the gates. The only one who can fight him on his level. Without her, the kids are just humans with flashlights and Molotov cocktails trying to stop a god. And gods don't lose to bottles of gasoline. But 11 won't fall easily. She's stronger than that. More resilient. More determined. Which means Vecna has to be patient. He has to wait for the right moment. The right crisis. The right emotional collapse. And he will wait. Because time is on his side. Every day the gate stays open, his power grows. Every day Hawkins decays, his influence spreads. Every day the kids struggle to survive, they get weaker, slower, more desperate. And desperation makes people do things they never thought they would. Look at the pattern of the previous seasons. Every time the threat escalated, every time the cost increased, every time the kids had to sacrifice more. Bob died, Billy died, Hopper died and came back. Eddie died. Max nearly died. How many more losses can they take before someone breaks? Before someone decides that maybe fighting isn't worth it? Before someone listens when Vecna offers an alternative? That's the game he's playing. Not chess, but attrition. Grinding them down. Making them question. Making them hurt. Because hurt people are easier to manipulate. Easier to turn. Easier to use. And Vecna has been hurt longer than any of them. He knows how pain works, how it changes you, how it makes you willing to do anything to make it stop. And he's offering to make it stop, not through healing, but through transformation, through embracing the darkness instead of fighting it, through becoming a monster, so the monster can't hurt you anymore. It's a seductive offer, a logical offer, a tempting offer, especially when you're 17 years old and you've already died twice fighting battles that adults started. If you're starting to understand why Vecna is the most dangerous villain Stranger Things has ever created, hit that subscribe button, because this analysis is going deeper than anyone else is willing to go. And trust me, you'll want to follow where this leads. The truth is, Vecna's plan is already in motion. The gate is open. The corruption is spreading. The heroes are scattered and broken, and somewhere in the upside down, his body is healing, regenerating, preparing for round 2. And when he returns, he won't be weaker. He'll be stronger, more focused, more determined, because he's had time to learn from his mistakes, time to adjust his strategy, time to prepare for 11's next move. And she won't be ready. There's a concept in warfare called the Pyrrhic victory, a win that costs so much that it might as well be a loss. The Battle of Hawkins at the end of Season 4 was exactly that. The kids stopped Vecna from completing his ritual in real time. They saved Max's life. Technically, they prevented immediate catastrophe. But in doing so, they triggered something worse, something slower, something they don't know how to fight. Because you can't fight a gate that won't close. The gate is the real weapon, not Vecna's powers, not his visions, not his ability to kill from a distance. The gate itself is the end game. It's self-sustaining now. It doesn't need Vecna to actively maintain it. The 4 deaths created 4 anchors. The ritual bound those anchors to specific locations in Hawkins. And as long as those locations exist, as long as the trauma and death that happened there remains unresolved, the gate stays open. Think about what would be required to close it. You'd need to undo the deaths, erase the trauma, heal the wounds both physical and psychological. But how do you undo death? Chrissy is gone. Fred is gone. Patrick is gone. Max is in a coma, suspended between worlds. There's no fixing that. No magic reset button. The damage is permanent, which means the gate is permanent. And a permanent gate means the upside down has permanent access to reality. That's not a complication. That's checkmate. The kids don't understand this yet. They're focused on survival, on regrouping, on finding a way to fight back. But they're operating under the assumption that there's still a fight to be had, that if they're clever enough, strong enough, determined enough, they can still win. But Vecna has already changed the rules. The fight isn't about closing the gate anymore. It's about surviving what comes through it. And what's coming through is worse than demogorgons. The upside down isn't just a place. It's an ecosystem, a complete alien biology with its own food chain, its own predators, its own evolutionary pressures. We've seen the bottom tier, the demo dogs, the basic monsters. But there are things deeper in that world. Things that haven't crossed over yet because they didn't fit through the small gates. Things that need a rift the size of the one currently splitting Hawkins in half. Vecna knows what's in the deep parts of the upside down. He's lived there for decades. He's seen things the kids can't imagine. And he's not afraid of them because he controls them. He's the apex predator, the mind flayer's voice, the intelligence directing the hive. Which means when those deeper horrors start crossing into Hawkins, they'll be following his orders. They'll be weapons, strategic, focused, deployed with purpose. The military isn't prepared for that. The government isn't prepared. The kids aren't prepared. Because how do you prepare for an invasion from a dimension where physics doesn't work right, where the creatures regenerate, where the environment itself is hostile? You can't build a wall high enough. You can't post enough guards. You can't bomb the gate without destroying Hawkins, and everyone's still in it. Vecna created an unwinnable scenario, and he did it by losing. Now, let's talk about Max specifically. She's the linchpin, the living anchor. As long as she's in that coma, caught between life and death, the gate remains stable. But here's the horrifying question nobody wants to ask. What happens if she wakes up? Does the gate close? Or does it get worse? Because she's been in that suspended state for weeks now. Months, maybe, depending on the timeline. And all that time, she's been connected to the upside down. Part of her is still there, in Vecna's realm, touching his mind. What if she doesn't wake up the same? What if the girl who comes back isn't entirely Max anymore? What if Vecna has been working on her this whole time? Whispering, influencing, reshaping her from inside? What if when she opens her eyes, she's a final gate? Not a doorway, but a bridge. A living connection that allows Vecna to manifest in the real world without needing his physical body to heal? That would be the ultimate move. The perfect trap. Everyone loves Max. Everyone wants her to wake up. 11 especially. She's desperate to save her, to fix what went wrong. But what if saving Max is exactly what Vecna needs? What if her awakening is the trigger for Phase 2? Then the kids are faced with an impossible choice. Let Max stay in a coma, trapped and suffering, to keep the gate stable, or wake her up and risk unleashing something worse. There's no good answer, no clean solution, just moral compromise and impossible decisions, the kind of choices that break people. And broken people are what Vecna needs. This is psychological warfare at its finest. Vecna doesn't just attack with power. He attacks with dilemmas, with scenarios where every option leads to pain, where victory requires sacrifice, where the cost of winning is almost as bad as the cost of losing. He forces the heroes to destroy themselves, to tear each other apart, to question everything they believe about right and wrong. Because what is right when all your options are terrible? Let Hawkins be consumed to save the world? Sacrifice Max to close the gate? Turn 11 into a weapon and let her lose her humanity in the process? These aren't hypothetical questions. They're the actual dilemmas the kids are going to face. And Vecna knows that heroes hesitate. They debate. They try to find a third option. And while they're searching for a solution that doesn't exist, he's moving forward with his plan. Time is the ultimate weapon, and Vecna has infinite patience. But there's one factor he might not have fully accounted for. One variable that could disrupt his perfect plan. And it's not 11. It's not the kids. It's not the military or the government or some secret weapon hidden in Hawkins. It's Will Byers. Will has been connected to the Upside Down since Season 1. He was taken, possessed, used as a spy. And even after the Mind Flayer was expelled from his body, the connection remained. He can still feel it, still sense when the Upside Down is active, still knows when Vecna is moving. He's a living radar, an early warning system, and he's been getting stronger signals lately, more frequent, more intense. What if Will is the key to tracking Vecna? What if his connection goes both ways? What if he can sense where Vecna is healing? What if he can feel the corruption spreading and identify the source? The kids have been treating Will's connection as a curse, a lingering trauma. But what if it's actually an advantage? The only way to find Vecna before he's ready to strike again, that would require Will to do something terrifying. He'd have to open himself up to the Upside Down, intentionally, willingly. Let the connection strengthen. Feel what Vecna feels. See what Vecna sees. Essentially become a double agent in a war between dimensions. And that kind of exposure could corrupt him, could turn him, could give Vecna exactly what he wants, another victim to twist and use. But it might also be the only way to win. This is the kind of impossible choice that defines Stranger Things. The kind of sacrifice that makes victory bittersweet. Because even if they find Vecna, even if they stop him, the cost will be enormous. People will die. People will be changed. Hawkins might be lost forever. The kids will carry scars that never fully heal. And the world will know that monsters are real, that the Upside Down exists, that safety is an illusion. Vecna isn't just trying to open a gate. He's trying to shatter the comfortable lies humanity tells itself. The pretense that we're safe, that we're in control. That evil is something that happens to other people in other places. He's making everyone confront the truth, that the monsters are already here, that the darkness is always waiting. That one crack is all it takes for everything to fall apart. And Hawkins is that crack. If you're still watching, if you're still following this thread, drop a comment. Tell me what you think happens next. Tell me if you think the kids can actually win. Tell me if you think Vecna is healing, or if he's already awake and watching. Because we're heading into the final act, and this is where everything comes together. Let's bring this home. Let's talk about what victory actually looks like against an enemy like Vecna. Because in most stories, victory is clean. The hero defeats the villain. The world is saved. Everyone celebrates. But Stranger Things has never been that kind of story. It's always been about cost, about loss, about the price you pay for survival. And against Vecna, the price is going to be catastrophic. Even if the kids kill him, the gate remains. Even if they close the gate, the corruption has already spread. Even if they cleanse Hawkins, the world now knows monsters exist. There's no going back to normal, no returning to the innocence of Season 1. Too much has been lost. Too much has changed. The kids have seen too much, done too much, survived too much. And Vecna knows that's a real victory. Not physical conquest, but psychological transformation, turning Hawkins into a place where fear is the default, where trust is impossible, where everyone is waiting for the next attack. He's not trying to rule the world. He's trying to prove that the world is already ruled by fear and pain and trauma, that he's just making the invisible visible. And in that sense, he's already won. Think about what Hawkins represents. Small-town America, the heartland, the place where nothing bad is supposed to happen, where kids ride bikes and play games and grow up safe. Vecna chose Hawkins specifically because destroying it sends a message. If it can happen there, it can happen anywhere. If a gate can open in Indiana, it can open in California, in New York, in London, in Tokyo. Nowhere is safe. Nowhere is exempt. The upside down is everywhere, just waiting for someone to open the door. That's the horror, not the monsters themselves, but what they represent. The breakdown of safety, the end of childhood, the realization that the adults can't protect you, that the government lies, that science doesn't have all the answers, that sometimes the nightmare wins, and sometimes the only way to stop the nightmare is to become one yourself. 11 understands this better than anyone. She's been a weapon her whole life, created to fight, trained to kill, used by people who didn't care about her humanity. And every time she uses her powers, every time she taps into that rage and violence, she feels herself slipping, becoming more like the thing she's fighting, more like Vecna, because power without limits is its own kind of corruption. And 11 has almost no limits left. What happens when she realizes that stopping Vecna requires becoming like him? What happens when the only way to win is to embrace the darkness she's been running from her whole life? What happens when Mike looks at her and sees a stranger? When her friends back away because they're afraid of what she might do? That's Vecna's real endgame. Not killing 11, but making her kill herself. Emotionally, psychologically, turning her into the monster. So that even if she wins, she loses. Because victory means sacrificing everything that makes her human. Everything that makes her L instead of 11. Everything that makes her more than just a weapon. And once she crosses that line, there's no coming back. But here's the thing about Stranger Things. It's a show about found family, about kids who save each other, about friendship being stronger than power. And even if 11 falls into darkness, even if she becomes something terrifying, Mike and Dustin and Will and Lucas and Max won't give up on her. They'll pull her back. They'll remind her who she is. They'll show her that she's more than her powers, more than her past, more than what other people made her. That's the real counter to Vecna. Not power, but connection. Not strength, but love. Because Vecna is alone. He's been alone for decades. He has power, but no purpose beyond destruction. No one to care about. No one to care about him. He's empty. And emptiness can't compete with fullness. Isolation can't beat community. Hate can't overcome love. Not easily, at least. Vecna will come back. His body will heal. His power will return. And when he does, the final battle won't be about who's stronger. It'll be about who has more to fight for. Vecna fights for a broken vision of truth. The kids fight for each other, for their families, for their town, for the chance to just be kids again, even if they know that chance is gone. And maybe that's enough. Maybe it has to be, because the alternative is unthinkable. A world where the upside down wins, where the gates stay open forever, where monsters walk freely and fear is the only constant, where Vecna's vision becomes reality and humanity tears itself apart, where every town becomes Hawkins, every home becomes haunted, every child becomes a soldier. That's the stakes. That's what losing looks like. So when people say Vecna lost at the end of Season 4, they're not seeing the full picture. They're not understanding the game he's playing. He didn't lose. He advanced. He changed the board. He forced the heroes into a position where every move cost something, where victory requires sacrifice, where winning means losing something essential. That's not defeat. That's mastery. And the scariest part? We're only in the middle of the story. Season 5 hasn't happened yet. The final confrontation is still coming. And when it arrives, when Vecna finally reveals his true form, when the gate reaches its full potential, when the upside down and reality blur completely, the kids are going to face a choice. Save Hawkins or save the world. Save each other or save themselves. Become monsters to fight monsters, or hold on to their humanity and risk losing everything. There's no easy answer. No clean solution. Just a messy, complicated, heartbreaking reality of war. And that's what this is now. War. Not a battle, but a war. One that might never truly end. Because even if they kill Vecna, the gate remains. Even if they close the gate, the corruption lingers. Even if they cleanse the corruption, the memory stays. The trauma persists. The fear never fully goes away. Vecna understood something fundamental about horror, that it's not about the monster. It's about what the monster represents. The loss of control. The end of innocence. The realization that safety is a lie. And once you understand that, once you see through the comforting illusions, you can never unsee it. You're changed forever. Marked. Haunted. And everyone in Hawkins is haunted now. That's his legacy. Not death, but transformation. Not conquest, but revelation. He pulled back the curtain and showed everyone what was always there. The darkness underneath. The monsters inside. The fragility of the world we pretend is solid. And even if the kids stop him, even if they save Hawkins, that knowledge remains. That fear persists. That understanding can't be unlearned. So no, Vecna didn't lose. He just changed the game. He shifted the battlefield from physical to psychological, from power to fear, from fighting to surviving. And in that new game, the rules are different. The victory conditions are unclear. The end game is uncertain. But one thing is clear. The kids will fight. They'll struggle. They'll sacrifice. They'll bleed and cry and break and somehow keep going. Because that's what heroes do. Not because they're special or chosen or destined, but because they refuse to give up, even when it's hopeless, even when it hurts, even when the cost is everything they have. And maybe, just maybe, that refusal is enough. Maybe persistence beats power. Maybe hope beats fear. Maybe love beats hate. Not because the universe is fair or just or kind, but because people make it so, through choice, through sacrifice, through standing up even when everything says to lie down. That's the real battle. Not 11 versus Vecna, but hope versus despair, connection versus isolation, humanity versus emptiness. And that's a battle worth fighting, even if the outcome is uncertain, even if the cost is high, even if victory looks nothing like what we expected, because the alternative is surrender. And these kids don't know how to surrender. So when Season 5 arrives, when the final battle begins, when everything comes crashing down and the world holds its breath, remember this. Vecna changed the game, but the kids are still playing, still fighting, still refusing to let the darkness win. And sometimes that's all it takes. Not power, but persistence. Not strength, but stubborn, stupid, beautiful hope. That's what defeats monsters in the end. Not bigger monsters, but humans who refuse to become monsters themselves, who hold on to what makes them human even when it hurts, who choose connection over power, love over hate, light over darkness, even when the darkness seems like it's already won. If this analysis changed how you see Stranger Things, if it made you understand Vecna differently, if it made you think about what victory really means, do me a favor. Subscribe. Share this with someone who loves the show. Let them see what everyone else is missing, because stories like this deserve to be understood, appreciated, examined from every angle. And Vecna deserves recognition as what he truly is, not a defeated villain, but a threat that's still waiting, still watching, still planning the next move in a game that's far from over. The gate is open, the clock is ticking, and somewhere in the upside down, something is healing, growing stronger, preparing for the final act. And when it comes, nothing will ever be the same.